Hello, Lori and Jonathan. Hey, Mark.
Hey.
Mark is my colleague. He's joining today to listen in. Hi, Lori.
Hello, how are you?
I'm well, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Hi, Jonathan. Where are y'all joining from? Oh, I think you're muted.
Yeah, I was good. I'm sorry. Fayetteville, North Carolina.
North Carolina, nice. How you doing over there?
Good, and I hope you are too.
Yeah, we're doing
And
good.
everybody.
And how are you doing, Lori?
I'm doing good. I'm in upstate New York.
Nice. I see you're wearing your Nearpod shirt. I love it. Do you work for Nearpod or you use Nearpod?
I use Nearpod. I'm a pioneer for them, and they give you t-shirts.
Nice.
They're really comfortable, so good for days when I'm not on a lot of video calls.
I'm wearing my Unruly shirt today. The logo, it's a little big on me, so the logo's kind of low, but I get my face and the logo in the shirt. It's okay. Okay. So I'll wait a couple more minutes to see if more people join us. I think it'll be a smaller group today. It's Thursday in the summer, but we're recording this, so I'll be sending out the recording for everyone to listen to whenever they're ready. But how are things going for you guys in the planning stages for back to school? Has your state given you any guidance, Lori and Jonathan?
We're still waiting from our state in New York. Cuomo said that we all have to put together our plans and submit them to the state by the end of the month. And then sometime the first week of August, they'll let us know what we're allowed to do.
Nice.
Well, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, you're
I
good.
did. Okay. For us, we're supposed to be using Plan B. So we would be having students from Monday through Thursday, and then students will be home Friday. However, though, at my school, I have to report Monday through Friday on campus. And so, and also, parents have the option of doing all online as well.
Are you also providing daycare on Fridays, Jonathan? Or are they just home?
Well, as far as I don't know about daycare. I don't have any kids of my own. The students are my kids, and I can go home. But as far as daycare goes, I think it might be provided because I'm with parents and their kids. That's about what I know.
Okay. I asked because that sounds very similar to our plan, but we are also providing daycare on Fridays. So that's why I thought, you can tell me how you guys are going to do it, because I'm not sure how we are.
That's a good question. I'm the low man on the totem pole, so whatever they tell me to do, I'll pretty much do.
Hi, Andrea. Thanks for joining. We're just chatting for a little while before we get started. I'll wait one more minute. I think it will be a smaller group today, which will be nice, actually. We can all participate. How we were just talking about plans for reopening, and if you have any guidance from your state yet. Where are you coming in from?
I'm from Ontario. We are supposed to find out on August 4th what the plans.
I didn't catch where you were coming in from. I heard August 4th. You were breaking up a little bit on my end.
I'm from Toronto.
Oh,
I'm in Canada.
nice. I'm from Vancouver, but I'm in Boston now, but I'm a Canadian girl at heart, always. Nice. A lot of my family lives up in Toronto. Thanks for joining us. This is awesome to get another perspective from Canada. Great. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to start off. I have a couple questions for our panelists, and I think we're a small enough group that we can all chat about it. But wanting to know, Dan, Alexa, and Alan, and everybody else, you can write in the chat too. What are you most looking forward to this fall? Lots of anxiety and unknowns, but what are we most looking forward to? That's for sure.
Alexa, do you want to go first? I'm most looking forward to seeing the kids again. We've been running summer school with the instructors and the kids wearing masks. It's a small group. We've only had about 30 kids showing up each day out of the 80 that we invited to participate. And it's just so nice to see the kids again, even though they're not all students from my building. Seeing parents dropping kids off and seeing kids get off the bus for those that needed busing, being able to greet them and just interact with them has been great. So I'm really looking forward to that first hug, even though they're not supposed to hug me and I'm not supposed to hug them. They will anyway. I know that they will. And so I'm looking forward to that the most.
Anybody else want to chime in? Favorite things?
Well, I would agree with Dan. It's the people. I'm in this business for the people, and you know we've missed the kids for months. Some of them have been showing up and bringing enrollment packets and things like that, and it's just great to see them. Staff as well. We had a staff training a few days ago, and it was nice to see some of them. We haven't seen staff in person for months, so it's just nice to see everybody. And I agree with you. The hugs will come. They will. Especially those little guys. They just, yeah, they're great. So I would agree. It's the people.
How about you, Alexa?
The same, just being able to go back and see what it feels like with this new structure and what we can learn from it. But definitely to be able to see the children again is what I'm most looking forward to.
Awesome. And I know we chatted a little bit before we started about reopening plans, but do each one of you want to just give kind of a brief overview of what the reopening plans are so far for the fall? I know nothing set in stone. And, you know, maybe what plans are you considering if there's a couple different options on the table?
Do you want me to keep starting? I feel like I'm hogging the first position.
You're in my top left-hand corner. So
You're doing such a good job.
All right. Well, we have to consider, as I'm sure all of you do as well, you know, different phases. I don't know if every state is in the same position, but in Michigan, if we are phase 5, which we're not right now, but if we're phase 5, we can be back to normal school. We're in phase 4 right now, which means we have to consider social distancing and masks and all that good stuff. And then phase 3 would mean we're completely remote. And so we don't want to drop to phase 3. We're hoping to elevate to phase 5, but the COVID cases are still coming. And so as far as our plan, it was just rolled out today, and it was rolled out kind of unexpectedly. We got like a little preview from our superintendent. Not that as administrators, we didn't know it was a possibility, but as I was saying, when Jonathan chimed in saying 4 days a week, we are going with a hybrid model.
I'm sorry, I forgot to ask y'all to introduce yourselves. Dan, do you want to, I'm going backwards.
Oh, sure, yeah. My name is Dan Scoville. I'm an elementary school principal, starting year 15 as an elementary principal. I've spent some time as a middle school assistant principal, and before that I taught middle school and high school actually. So had some experience at all the levels, and I work in Hamilton Community Schools, which is just a little south of Holland, and about 30 minutes from Grand Rapids, Michigan, if either of those cities ring a bell to you.
Awesome, thanks. And Alexa, do you mind introducing yourself and then sort of going through the overview of sort of the plan for the fall?
So my name is Alexa Sorden, and I'm the founding principal of Concourse Village Elementary School, and it's located in the South Bronx in District 7. And our plan looks like students in the hybrid model, same concept where we have all students, but sort of like a third of the size of what we would normally have to make sure that they're 6 feet apart within the classroom. And a group comes into school Monday through Wednesday. That would be cohort A. Then they go into a flipped classroom model for Thursday and Friday, and that's when cohort B comes in. While cohort B would be remote learning Monday through Wednesday. Then they come into school Thursday and Friday. And then there's a group C for anyone who opts out. And the way we figured that out for our staff is that we would have one, where we can, one teacher in charge of each grade. So that since, for example, on Monday through Wednesday, when cohort A is in school, cohort B is not, because they're in the flipped model. So that's when that grade level teacher will be there for them Monday through Wednesday. Then when cohort A goes into the Thursday, Friday slot for flipped, that teacher will be there as well. And for any student who opted out completely, if that makes sense. So the numbers they gave us were no more than 10 people per classroom according to our square footage, and so it's a total of 10 people per room.
And is it the younger ones that are getting the 3 days a week in school?
So because of our school size, it worked out that it can go from 3K all the way to 5th grade, and the children that are getting that additional day are children that have been proven that, according to data, that they need more support. So it wasn't just your age, it wasn't an IEP, and it wasn't just an English language need. It's just that you need more support, because I could be a child without classifications, but I don't have access as much as a child with classification. So we wanted to be equitable and say, well, where does it say, what else can we look at other than just a classification for a child to have an additional day of support?
Oh, sorry, I'm muted. Alan, do you mind introducing yourself and giving sort of an overview of your plan for back to school?
Certainly. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Alan Rogers. I am the principal and superintendent of Picacho Elementary School District. It's a very small rural school district in southern Arizona, about halfway between Phoenix and Tucson. And in Arizona, we've been given the option to pretty much have local control. The governor gave us that a while back, although we were slated to start August 17th. And I believe that's going to be put on hold today, but we'll see what the governor says later. But our plan was basically to come back. I don't know if this is a term anymore, but as normally as possible. And it will be distancing and using some masks. All staff will wear shields as opposed to masks, because I can just imagine wearing a mask and everybody's muffled and can't hear anyone and saying what all day long. But that was our initial plan, to come back and distance as best we could, and use shields and masks. Masks were not going to be required in our county, in Pinal County in Arizona. They are highly recommended but not required. So we were going to leave that up to the individual parent or the teacher. If the teacher has underlying health problems and is afraid that they could catch it and their life could be in danger, they could require their particular class to do that. But again, this could all be put on hold as of 3 o'clock here this afternoon. The governor is going to make another announcement. So like everybody else, it's almost day to day here. Apparently Arizona is one of the hot spots now, and our cases are continuing to rise. So, and the governor is facing all kinds of pressure from almost every school district and organization in the state to delay in-person opening until after the first quarter. A lot of school districts have opted to go virtual until the end of the first quarter. And we'll have a virtual plan as well for those parents or students that are still a little bit afraid. But that's where we are as of today. Could change in a matter of hours. Oh, and I've been in this business this is my 39th year, 32 years as a principal or superintendent. So I guess I'm the old man in the group. But it's nice to see you all, and I applaud everything that everybody's doing because I know it's been interesting here. So
I applaud you for coming back for this.
well, thank you.
If I had my 30 years in, I don't think I'd be coming back for this.
Yeah, it's never a dull moment.
I wonder, I think you've touched on something that, you know, things are changing so quickly and you're getting information, feedback from parents and from students and from the governor and from the state. How do you filter all of this and sort of, you know, make your way and have clarity? Do you have any advice on how to sort of go about that?
Are we starting back over with Dan, or are you asking me that question?
Anybody who feels strongly about it. I don't think all three of you need to answer, but I think, yeah, I feel like a lot of principals are going through the same thing where there's so much is changing all the time. And so, you know, I'm curious how you are able to filter through all that new information and sort of, you know, make use of it.
I don't mind answering that one, but I think Alan actually should start and I'm not putting you on the spot, Alan, but with a role of superintendent and principal, you're getting it from the whole community, where I'm only dealing with my little slice of the pie, so to speak. So why don't you start with this one?
Right. Well, it's, as I'm sure all of you have, I believe I've had an email from pretty much every vendor on earth that has some kind of a plan for reopening, whether it be, you know, masks or sanitizing stations, or, you know, some kind of a, you know, new or improved, you know, curricular, you know, area, virtual or otherwise. So I get hundreds of emails every day just based on that. And then, like you say, I hear from other superintendents, not only in the county, but the state. And, you know, we get constant emails from, you know, our insurance carriers, from the State Department, from, you know, ASBA, our governing board, you know, organization, administrator organizations. Everybody, you know, has something to say through all this. And how do we get through it? You know, I'm constantly either on my computer or my phone, you know, either archiving emails or getting rid of them if they're not important. But it's a constant barrage. I've never seen anything like it. I know when we first went remote in the middle of March, you know, a lot of people would come on Facebook and different things, say, oh, you guys are working from home, you're not doing much. I believe I've been just as busy, if not busier, you know, during that time, just with the information and the sales pitches that are coming on, and the fear, and, you know, the unsurety of the entire situation. People ask, what's going on? What are we doing? And, you know, just trying to reassure everybody. So it's not easy to wade through it, but, you know, everybody's nervous. So I understand that. So anyway, that's a little bit of my situation.
And do any of you have sort of like a guiding star of like, this is the priority of like what I'm going to listen to, or is it just sort of you take everything in and then process and then, okay, let's make a plan?
Well, just for me, people come first. If it's you know, either my county superintendent or, you know, other superintendent or a staff member or a parent, you know, I'm gonna tackle that one first. You know, the emails and the text and the other messages can wait, but it's all about, you know, it's all about the people first. That's me.
Alexa, do you want to jump in before I answer?
Well, for me, in terms of managing it, I wait until I hear the same theme at least 3 times to start to believe it. Because I don't think it's like the fault of anyone other than this is very new to all of us. So I just as I'm listening to the information at like as a Department of Education employee, my immediate supervisor is my superintendent. Then there's a deputy, then there's another deputy, then there's a chancellor, then there's the mayor, then there's the governor. So there's just like lots of layers. So I just I just listen, but I don't always internalize things unless it goes back directly to something that I can do in a classroom. So what I'm really interested in is remote learning. So when something, because it seems like no matter what happens, we're going to have to be really good at that, because there's going to be a group that's going to be remotely learning every day, regardless of the cohort they're in. And if someone tests positive, we have to automatically switch to remote learning. So therefore, I just want to get really good at remote instruction. So that's what I listen to a lot. I already know how to do traditional classroom, right? Like I already know how to do that. I do listen to things that are connected to safety. So whatever they say regarding how to be safe, I pay very close attention to that. And other than that, the other information, I just wait to see how many times it comes up. Then I'll take it like, okay, so that's really happening.
I like that, the three mentioned rule.
Yeah, that's new to me too. That's a good tip. We have run a virtual program for a few years now, and that's always been an option. Now we were told to make it clear to parents that there is virtual at your own pace. There is virtual at the classroom pace. So if a student or a parent is uncomfortable sending their child, that child would still have the same teacher they were going to have. They can learn at the pace of the class, but do it virtually. So that's another option. And then they can come to school, obviously. So we have 3 different pathways for students. Again, first time we've ever offered the option of you can be a part of the class and not attend and simply work from home. And so that will be interesting to see how teachers handle not only dealing with the students that are with them in person, but also handling assignments and answering questions and things of that nature virtually as well. And so it's going to be a whole new world for us, I'm sure.
Just on the lighter side, layering on what Alexa said, about having multiple supervisors. It's very nice being the principal and the superintendent, because if I get out of line, I can reprimand myself. So, and that happens quite frequently. So I just wanted to throw that in.
Alan, do you write yourself up?
I haven't done that yet, but I've thought about it. So, maybe I need to do that. Good idea.
Do you tell parents that the superintendent's an idiot and you're just talking to them as the principal?
I don't need to. They're already aware of that.
Nice. Alexa, you reminded me of something too. You said you've got the in-person teaching down pat and you want to get really good at the virtual stuff. So after 3 months of sort of virtual learning and being thrown into the son of cyclone and figuring it out as you go, I wonder if any of you, and this goes to everybody here, have any tips that you've learned that you will definitely be implementing in the fall once it starts up, whether it be hybrid or all virtual or all in person. Sort of what are the things that you learned about virtual learning that you'll definitely continue, or maybe things that you didn't do that you're like, well, I'm definitely going to do that in the fall because we didn't do it right this time.
I'd like to start with that one. That's kind of my wheelhouse. I'll introduce myself. I'm Lori Guion. I'm the Model Schools Coordinator for BOCES in New York. BOCES is if you're not familiar with them, are a cooperative educational service. So we service ours in particular services 5 counties, 31 school districts, about 40,000 students. So my role is professional learning. So when we went, and our districts went home mid-March, we shifted to online learning very fast. And so my job was to train the teachers. So I hosted daily webinars, one-on-ones, workshops, whatever teachers needed. I hosted between March and June about 130 webinars. And like somebody said that they worked more, being virtual, definitely my job became, for the minute I got up till the minute I went to sleep, because teachers needed me. And then what I've learned from listening to teachers on all of these different webinars and some of the best practices that I've seen come out is consistency, and not just within the classroom, but within the grade level. So that way, if a student is in second grade and their neighbor's second grader is in another classroom, they're getting the same information at the same time. And it's on the same format, whether it's Canvas or Google Classroom, that teachers are all using it the same way, is a big part of that consistency piece too, that it's something that the students shouldn't have to go to 5 to 10 to 15 different places to find what they have to accomplish. And they shouldn't be getting information on a Monday night at 11 p.m. or 7 o'clock on a Friday morning and not knowing when things are due because they're being told different things on different days. So there should be consistency from how it's delivered and how it's communicated. Another best practice, actually, I heard from a second grade teacher. She once a week would do a Google Meet for just the parents. And what she would do is she'd preset what was coming for the following week. So she'd meet with them saying, here's the tools we're going to be using. Here's a walkthrough on how to do it. Do you have any questions? What struggles did your child have? And it just opened up this communication between the parents and the teachers, so they always knew what was expected. And she found that really helped her students be more successful because parents had a chance to ask the questions, and it lightened her email load throughout the rest of the week because they knew they were going to meet with her to kind of have that conversation. That was another big one. And then the other one was how to introduce the tools, was another big one that we saw. A lot of teachers were learning the tools along with their students, and they introduced too many. And it got very difficult for a student who had to learn 15, 20 different platforms because their teacher was learning 2 or 3. So I would say when you start the school year, if you're a Google school or Microsoft, stick with the base and then start to build the others as students get more comfortable, because know that you're not maybe their only teacher and they're learning from all of these different teachers. So those were 3 major ones that I definitely saw that we've been talking about. And my job this summer has been completely doing workshops on teaching, better pedagogy now with remote learning, because we were in this emergency, like just throw stuff at students. Now let's really make sure that we're looking at the quality of what we're giving them so that they're creating, they're collaborating, they're communicating with each other still.
Those are awesome tips. Andrea is nodding profusely. She's agrees with you. Anything to add, Andrea?
Yeah, that was really frustrating, was because I was the person that was supporting my school in my role, and I was supporting the teachers, but then I was also supporting the students, and then also supporting the parents. So I was getting emails from a lot of people, and I tried to send out like emails to the teachers to say, listen, try to only use tools that students will have access to post COVID-19 password freebies, right? Like, so they had like lots of places would be like, you don't have to have a membership for right now. But then I was like, when that stopped, after they put all that effort into learning those platforms, then that's a waste of energy on everybody. So I was like, if you use tools that you can be ongoing, then, and like simplified, like you were saying, like use Google Classroom and teach the kids how to use the tools within their like Google apps and create deep learning for them through those. And yes, it's going to probably take you a little more time to create some of those things, but you'll always have them, whether we're in a hybrid model, remote learning, or you just have it like in class and you can go to the computer lab at your school and use them. So I felt like a lot of energy was put into just keeping them busy and giving them lots of work, but I don't feel like it was meaningful. And I mean, I'm saying that as a parent as well, because both of my children had to do remote learning. They just finished grade 1 and grade 3, and I would have loved that Google Meet with the teacher. That would have been great. But yeah, like, and also when you're using like third-party things that have passwords, and I would get emails from parents. I'm like, I have no idea what that is, and I can't reset their password. But if they need their school provided account opened up and fixed, I can do that. So yes, those are all sort of the same things that we learned from. And you know what I guess, like, to relate this to your Unruly products, in Ontario, we just rolled out new curriculum that has coding in it. And what I would love is if we could, like, give the, like when you have borrow books, if we could borrow some splats and take those home with you and then do a coding project, and then you could send it to your teacher, right? Like, to try it out. Like, I think that, or they could code at home and then try it out on those, or demonstrate it on those learning days. So I'm hoping that it's more of a hybrid than a direct remote learning.
Nice. That's an awesome idea. We've definitely been working on some modifications for games to play. So if the students, we have the virtual only lesson plans, but we also have sort of a modification guide for, if your students are coding at home and then getting to play the game when they're in school in person, but with some ideas and some modifications for social distance, according to CDC guidelines. So that's I love that idea of, loaning the splats out, disinfecting them and all that, so the kids can play with them at home too. Okay, anything to add, Dan, Alexa, or Alan? Any tips?
I think the consistency piece that I heard Lori talk about is very important. Our teachers were kind of thrown into the remote learning in mid-March as well. And, they were needing to do training on how to do Google Classroom, and then implementing that. And you can imagine K-12 teachers being all over the board in terms of expectations, pacing, learning styles, learning expectations, length of time, online and so forth. And so that frustrated parents, and we got a lot of feedback regarding, well, so-and-so is doing it great, and let me tell you how rotten this teacher or that teacher is. And it's like, no, they're doing the best they can in a new situation as well. And so, I think we will be much better prepared, and we will have much more clear expectations coming into this year. We've got a 13-page document that I just pulled up while I was listening, just rattling off all of those needs for consistency and the expectations for teachers, whether we are remote or hybrid.
For me, I hope they can keep up the engagement piece. I'm a huge fan of student engagement, and we call it buddy buzz. Some people call it think, pair, share, or share with your partner, what have you. But that's a very important part of learning for kids, and that's hard to do on a computer. So I hope that the teachers will spend some time to really engage those students in learning. I think it's crucial. They're not just watching TV; they're learning. So.
Alan, you mentioned on our earlier call about, I think, physical activity as a sort of inspiration for engagement. I was going to ask this later on, but I think it's a perfect time to talk about it now. Any thoughts on how you're going to sort of integrate the physical activity component for engagement and how important that is for your students?
Well, if the question is directed toward me, it's I believe that movement and the social emotional aspect for kids is huge as well. And it's not as easy when they're sitting in front of the computer to say, okay, get up, or work with your hands, work with a partner, move around a little bit to get those those educational juices flowing. But hopefully the teachers will be able to encourage them to get up or move around. Don't just sit in front of the computer all the time. But I'm certainly willing to listen to anybody that has those ideas. But I don't think you learn your best when we do the traditional sit in your desk and be quiet for 6 hours. They need to move, they need to communicate, and a lot of research done on, that kids are a lot more equipped to learn when they've been moving.
Yep, absolutely. I see everyone's nodding. Yay, you're our people. You agree? Kids should be moving and playing. All right, I'm gonna hop into just share some of the results from our teacher survey. It's like, I think this is the one. Okay. So how many of you actually took our survey? Awesome. Thank you for taking your survey. So I'm excited to share the results. We did a white paper on some of them, but we didn't include all of the things. So I wanted to kind of talk about some of the biggest takeaways that I had. So we asked what sort of to scale the learning, the ability to deliver quality instruction for all these different subjects. And so this was the result. We had about 100 principals and 131 teachers who sent out separate survey to teachers. And not surprisingly, you guys, the teachers and the principals agreed. It wasn't like the principals thought that, they were doing great in one thing and the teachers thought it wasn't. But there was sort of this consensus that math and English were doing pretty well. But the ones that were hurt the most were computer science and project-based learning. So I'm wondering if you all agree with that, and sort of what you will be doing in the fall if there is sort of a virtual learning component, which it sounds like a lot of you will have that, what you'll be doing to sort of work on those subjects that might have been taken a hit over the summer, or over the spring rather.
In New York, we have new computer science and digital fluency standards that are rolling out. So it's definitely on teachers' radars and schools' radars to do more with computer science, but I don't think that it was a priority in the spring. I'm hoping that it's more of a priority come fall, especially knowing what's coming, but I don't know that we're there yet.
In Arizona, probably much like other states, language arts and math is what's tested. So that's probably why that was rated higher. I mean, that's where a lot of our focus is, because it's the testing subjects more than any of the others.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think also the accountability piece is tougher for phys ed, for instance. You can put something out certainly for kids to do, but it's hard to ensure that they're doing it, because you're not going to get the same accountability unless you have them take a video of them doing it and then submit it or something. But just a little tougher, requires a little more creativity for a subject like that.
Any thoughts on sort of the phases? So I feel like there was phase 1, which was make sure that every student has Wi-Fi access and, devices. And then phase 2, it looks like, was making sure that they're getting that core math and English. And so if we're thinking about phase 3 in terms of sort of figuring things out with distance learning, I'm curious what you all think that phase 3 will be.
I'm hoping it's better pedagogy, that teachers aren't just saying, here's your assignment, hand it in a week, but they're actually doing quality teaching. And there definitely were teachers that were, but I think a lot of teachers just didn't know how in a virtual world. So I'm hoping that more have taken the time to learn, or, do things like this, get on these conversations to be able to figure out how best to serve their students in that virtual environment.
That makes sense.
I'm hoping it becomes, I guess along the same lines, something more natural, something that we could see more of. What kind of opportunity do we have here? So it doesn't feel compliant, and that it's something that we're embracing. so that we're able to learn from it and say, this actually works out better for some children. Like to learn that where Dan is, it's actually already an option for some. Like it should have always been an option everywhere for all children, because what I noticed was children that typically were not doing well in the traditional setting were soaring online. And when we asked why, because we did check in, it was because they were they felt they're kind of timid and they didn't want to speak up in class, or they felt that, being alone and working at their own pace made a lot more sense for them. So making this more of a natural option for those that want it versus a mandate. Like now this is the situation we're in and there's a sense of urgency. So like figure it out and make it work. Well, I would love to see it become something that becomes a part of how we do education.
Yeah, I agree with Alexa. I think the one size fits all approach is gone. And I don't know that we all necessarily embrace that mindset, but now I think we're all seeing it and seeing all the different options that parents have. And so if we don't create or produce a good product for our students, they're going to go elsewhere, because why wouldn't they? There are plenty of options now that can give them exactly what we're going to give them or could give them if we don't.
Yeah, that's a
I would
great.
piggyback on something that Alexa said. I'm Jonathan Foster. In fact, I teach sixth grade math at my current school in Lumber Bridge, North Carolina. And something that Alexa mentioned about compliance. And one underlining theme among all this is about building relationships. We as human beings thrive on relationships. So we have to have not only positive relationships among colleagues, but also with the students as well. And if you have an awesome relationship with students, if you can reach them, they will do anything they can for you. I've seen it happen for myself time and time again. So an underlining theme of this is also making sure that we have those connections and building those relationships with students. That's extremely important.
Awesome. Sorry, guys. There's a huge storm here. I don't know if you heard the crack of the lightning. I just had to mute myself. But I'm just going to move on to one of the next sort of big takeaways that we had, which this survey was about a month ago now. So, a lot of things were actually more uncertain at that time. So we were really curious to hear from principals if they thought that school would be in person in the fall or when it would be reopening. So a huge majority said that August, September, they expect to be at least partially back in person. So that was a big takeaway for us. And then also the prioritization of hybrid tools. So things that work for both in person and distance. So kind of to Alexa's point of making it more natural, making it like it could work in distance or it could work in person. And it's really important to have both because of that equity piece that we talked about as well, making sure that the students who do choose to learn from home are getting the same access as those who are in person. Are you thinking about things differently going into fall, Alexa, for those students who will be at least partially distance or like fully distance, and how are you sort of thinking about that?
I know for me, that's one thing I'm definitely thinking about. Also, I'm thinking about the virtual component, like you said, Lauren. And one thing I want to implement is having a virtual math journal for my students as well. Because for me, I live by the math journal. They have worked wonders in my classroom. And one thing that I've noticed is that they with these math journals, as we keep them throughout the year, as we continue to review them throughout the year, I notice that students have done a lot better because they have something to refer to. Just like us, when we're traveling to a new place, we rely on our GPS. We rely on something to help us to point us in our right direction. Well, with these math journals that the students keep, I feel like it helps keep them on that right path to get to where they need to go.
So for us as a school, something that we've wanted to explore was what can we do better in terms of that flipped classroom model so that we utilize our in-person time more thoughtfully and more intentionally. So thinking about when they're in person, what would be something that would merit an in-person lesson that's so important. And when they're at home and we're thinking about that flipped part, should they be watching those synchronous videos? Should they have the text annotated and look at that and, look at all of that prior to coming into class so that we can hone in on conversations, so that we can talk about misconceptions. So we want to be more thoughtful about what's happening in front of us and then what's happening when they're at home. And then if a parent selects to have a child solely remotely, just thinking about what does that look like at your own pace, but that it matches the classroom as well.
Can I piggyback on something Alexa said, please? I like that idea of a flipped classroom. I think one thing that one problem that we're experiencing as teachers is that, of course, we do the lesson in the classroom and things like that, and then we send them home, and they're doing the work at home. Well, why not do the work in the classroom with the teacher? So therefore, if you have an issue, you have a question, you can ask the teacher there rather than, oh, well, my teacher's not here. Let me see if I can call the school before he or she leaves, or, oh, well, hopefully I can send this email and then he or she responds by a certain time before I have to go to bed. Because wonders can be worked when you actually do most of the work in the classroom and you have that person right there to help.
Oh, I think we might have lost you at the end there, but that makes a lot of sense, and I think that would probably be super helpful for the parents too, who are feeling the strain of having to teach their students at home as well. Right. So again, this was with the context of this being a few weeks ago. I'm thinking about reopening in the fall. What guidelines do you expect to be in place? So this is just sort of interesting with the different ideas of if students will be in person, what guidelines will be in place. So most popular was sanitizing and disinfecting protocol, 6-foot distance, about 50% mask policy, which I think is interesting. I thought it would be higher, but it's interesting too to hear from you, Alan. You had said that it was up to the parents or the teacher, right? No, it was highly recommended but not enforced. Is everybody else having an enforced policy, or does this look pretty similar to what things that you will be implementing in the fall?
In New York, we're required to be 6 feet apart at all times and required to wear masks unless there's a medical reason not to.
In Michigan, for K-5 students, masks are encouraged but not required. And for 6-12, they are required.
I'm just curious, from my point of view, if social distancing is required, how do you 99% of my students are bused. We would need 10 times the amount of buses if we were able to there's no way we can socially distance on a bus. So I'm curious how that works unless you're a neighborhood school.
It's called hypocrisy. We're going to do the best we can once they arrive, but getting them there, it won't be possible. And so masks will be on the bus, but as far as distancing, it's not going to be possible. They'll do the best they can, but they're not going to be able to pull that off either.
And Andrea, you said that masks must be worn indoors in Ontario. I was curious about Canada. All right, nice.
Just one last note on buses. I have a CDL, and one of my roles is driving the bus, and not often, but when we're short bus drivers, and I think most of our bus drivers would love it if kids wore masks. It'd be a lot quieter, but boy, you can't see half the kids, so keeping those things on is going to be interesting. But And if you've never driven a bus before, I highly recommend it. It's great.
And
Alyssa
who wouldn't
and I remember
wear a
joking
mask when
about
it's
this on the phone.
110?
Sorry, what was that, Dan?
I said, who wouldn't want to wear a mask when it's 110 degrees?
Yeah, well, when it's 110 outside, it's about 140 on our buses. So it's interesting, but we get along just
Have
fine.
to be the same again.
Oh, I
Have
think
to be on the bus. Your life will never be the same again.
Oh, Jonathan, you still there? Okay, I think we might have lost him. But
I'm here.
oh, you're still
I
here?
was saying, I've been on the bus having to drive it. I'm sorry, I've been on the bus having to drive it and also be a monitor. Woo. It's an experience.
I think he said he's been a monitor and a bus driver potentially. All right. Well, one other big thing that I want to talk about before we leave today is just the importance of SEL and connection that we saw in the survey. Pretty much everybody said that they were worried about the impact of social emotional learning, social emotional engagement. Can any of you speak to the importance of that and sort of what you saw in distance learning and how you're thinking about it going into the fall and how you're going to make sure that your students are getting their kind of social emotional learning needs met?
I've been running workshops with area school districts with the admin and their leadership teams, and we've been working through the hyperdoc format, but with a social emotional focus so that they can experience what a hyperdoc is, but we can also show them how they can do self-care for educators. We use a hyperdoc that they go through, and then we talk about how we can make sure that we're putting students' needs first, you know, the whole Maslow before Bloom kind of concept. And so we've been starting to put things in place with acronyms that become consistent within the school for being safe, being kind, all the things you typically do, but we're looking at it from that social emotional lens, but having that same conversation so that students start to hear the same language as we're going through. And then the other part is that they're encouraging that the curriculum for the first month of school be learn the platforms with the social emotional activities, building that community. Like Jonathan said, you have to build the relationships first. So they're saying, don't worry about staying on pace like we typically worry about in September, because our schools start after Labor Day. But the idea is to really start to build those relationships in whatever environment we're on. So that way, whether we're in person or we're online, students know that, you know, that they have a caring teacher that can help them out. So it really, it goes back again to the consistency piece again, to make sure that we have a consistent message, that we're there to support and offering ways for students to really kind of express themselves.
So something that I did as a admin, I was able to loop many of my classes where it made sense, so that there was an educator that was a constant for the child. And also, if the teacher was new to the grade or to that student, all teachers made commercials that parents received links for, so the child got to see their teacher, and like the teacher introduced herself or himself and how awesome it's going to be in his or her class. And the other thing I do for my scholars is I have a YouTube channel where I do read alouds for them, so that they could see me reading, and then they post comments. So those were some of the things that I wanted to maintain contact with them throughout the summer. But during the school year, we have, at our school, we do BIG. It's an acronym that I came up with for breathe deeply, initiate your intentions for this day, and get ready to have a great day. So we kept that going, and we taught our parents, and they also do it. So before we start any class, they know they have to start it big. And we also have morning meetings with them. And we have a small team that checks in on families every single day just to say hi, whether it's a text message. And we didn't want to overwhelm our families with emails or lots of information via text. So sometimes it's like a thankful Thursday message, or, you know, if you need me, I'm here. And then that's it. We try to keep it as simple as possible, because we need our families to feel well, you know, to be well, so that our children can be well. So we have a team that's really paying attention to the adults, and then our educators are paying close attention to the children.
I love that idea. I think it was you who was saying too at the, maybe it was Alan, at the end of the school year, the parents maybe weren't as responsive, but that they appreciated it during the school year. Did you find that most parents were happy to hear from you guys?
At the onset, yes. Toward the end, I think they started blocking us.
I'm sure they'll be happy to hear from you again in the fall. they'll be done with their kids. All right, and just sort of along the same lines, we asked a question about the importance of student collaboration. So, most of the principals that we surveyed said it was a priority. All right, and before I sort of give a little extra on Unruly, I just wanted to ask if you have any parting advice for everybody here on the line, principals, on sort of going into the fall with so much uncertainty. I loved the big. That's a great one. I think I will do that. I love that. But any other advice for principals? Parting advice?
Well, I have something. Just like I said earlier, I applaud all of you for being the rock for everyone. But in this age we have now of uncertainty, of social unrest, of negativity, of arguing in person and on social media, I think it's so important for all of us to be a positive force. I can't imagine being a kid and growing up in this kind of an environment, and we're taking sports away from our kids and everything else this year, and I just can't imagine growing up like that. So imagine what these kids are facing when they see adults arguing about the littlest things anymore. But I just encourage all of you to continue to be a positive force for your kids, because they need that, and they need to see us leading the way in being positive and being uplifting every day.
Absolutely. Good advice. Anybody else?
Dan, or I was.
Go ahead, Alexa.
Okay. I just would say, just to follow with what Alan shared, just be kind to others, but also be kind to yourself. So, we're all transitioning with this, through this. And whether COVID may have impacted us directly or someone that we care for directly. So just learn to be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and know that this too shall pass, and prioritize. Just take it one day at a time.
Hey, Alexa, could you tell that to my wife? I'm actually married to a superintendent as well, and
wow,
she's one of the hardest working people. I mean, anyway, that's another story, but she takes care of everyone except herself. But anyway, yeah, we're both superintendents, so you can imagine what our conversations are like every day.
I was going to say, you must have great dinner conversation. I think this was advice to principals. Is that right, Lauren?
Yeah.
I think just being patient and understanding of where teachers are. We have thrown so much at them in such a short amount of time that, they're not going to be experts in this mode of instruction. And so the only constant is change in education. And so, as Alexa said, this too shall pass. She's right, because everything changes all the time. But I think just being patient with our staff and supporting them as they work with our kids is going to be very important this year.
Absolutely. We hear, a lot from teachers as well, and they definitely appreciate the support that they get from their principals and fellow teachers. So that's a great one. And so definitely self-care, another good one. Okay, so I think we are out of time, but I'm just gonna quickly go through the next few slides, which is just about Unruly. So I'm sure hopefully almost everybody on this call has seen splats, but for those who have not, this is what they look like. So, you know, pre-COVID, very much thought to be a physical product, but we also very quickly pivoted, and we actually had already this amazing virtual platform that was great for debugging and you know, using with students maybe before you gave them physical splat so that they could get their reward for playing with the splat. But now we've pretty much doubled down on all of our virtual content to give that experience online. So we say no splats, no problem. We've got all virtual activities. If you haven't seen them, I'd be happy to share them with you after. We've got, I think 4 now, from anywhere from K through 8, that works for all 3 models. So the distance only, the in-person, or the hybrid model where they're coding at home potentially and playing at school. So we had a hybrid learning guide that we just came out with. And this is sort of what it looks like. So you'll see the splats on the left-hand side there. Those are the virtual splats. And then we have the blocks that you can drag and drop out, just like with in-person. The only difference is that the splats are virtual. So there's no touching involved, which is nice. And we do have a promotion right now. We're sort of all rallying behind Unstoppable Play. You know, we talked a little bit about the importance of SEL engagement, but also of getting kids active. So we have a STEM and fitness activity pack, which actually gets the kids moving, doing jumping jacks, you know, burpees, all sorts of different activities. And it's all randomized through code. So they get to build the code along the way. So we do have a back to school virtual boot camp for educators. So if, you know, your teachers have splats or would be interested in getting splats, email me, let me know, because we are running a virtual boot camp in the first week of August. It's going to be awesome. It's going to talk a lot about virtual learning and using splats and the hybrid model. We have flexible membership start dates. So, you know, if your school is not sure that they'll be in person in the fall, we will, you know, start the clock per se. We're flexible, you know, with whatever your needs are. If you're starting school a little bit later, even, you know, a few months after September, then we're flexible with that. So we have a promotion going on right now. Tomorrow's the last day, but reach out to me if you're interested. All right, and that's it. Does anybody have any other questions?
No questions, but I certainly wish everybody the best through these trying times, and nice chatting with some of you again.
Absolutely, and thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. It was really inspiring personally for me to hear all the things that you have gone through and the ways that you've innovated and thought about, you know, how you can improve going into these new times, especially with all the uncertainty. So I really appreciate you sharing and joining us today. I did record the session, so I'll send it out after as well if you want to rewatch it for people who weren't able to join. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And Lauren at unruly-studios.com is my email if you have any questions or need anything, need any of those virtual activities. I'll probably send those out in email as well. So stay tuned.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.